money without having fintech. Fintech is almost the middleman in every transaction or in every business. And that's why even we have seen a lot of investments going into fintech, the fintech space, as opposed to EdTech. Billions of dollars are going to fintech, but a very small amount is going to other areas of technology. And then, so working at Pesapal, I learned a lot, the ins and outs of fintech, and also processing of payments, because we did a lot of integrations with Mastercard, Amex, Visa. And then after that, I also started working at a startup that was dealing with the Salesforce. And when I was at that startup, I learned a lot about business processing and optimizations. And then after that, while working with Salesforce, I now started EasyElimu. And then now I think that's what now I'll talk about in more details from now.
All right, cool. Thank you very much, Rowlings, for that particular introduction. Thank you very much. It seems we're still having more and more people still trickling to this particular session, this particular call. So to the people as well that are probably joining a bit later, Karibuni once again. So this, my sincere apologies. A quick disclaimer, we'll be recording this particular session. My apologies for starting the recording a bit later, but yes, this one is to make sure that everyone is aware that it is going to be happening. But yeah, so thank you, Rowlings, for that particular quick snapshot into your journey, your beginning thus far. I also didn't think you actually came from Megaton. That's quite interesting. All the way to it's quite interesting, quite interesting. But so we've got it to the point where you worked with we worked within the fintech space, we worked now within Salesforce. But I know you're to the point where coming now to establish it, or ideally coming up with the idea behind EasyElimu. You probably just tell us a little bit into what inspired this particular idea, what ideally was going through your mind, and how ideally did you envision your particular platform to contribute, to addressing some of the educational challenges that we have in the country at this point in time. So yeah, so just a little bit backstory into the story behind EasyElimu.
Right. I grew up in a very humble background. All my life, I grew up in Nanyuki, since I was actually born in Nanyuki, raised in Nanyuki. And growing up, I grew up in a very humble environment. I'm talking about torn uniforms sometimes when I'm going to school, torn shoes. And then as a bright student, I was, I can say I was a child of the community. I was raised by the community. My school fee was paid by sponsors from a very early age, all the way through high school, even in university. My school fees was paid by well-wishers. And as I was going through that, I felt like, for me, as an adult, I don't want to go through the same. And I've been an entrepreneur from a very young age. As I mentioned earlier, I grew up in a very humble background. So sometimes we had to maybe sell charcoal, sell vegetables just to raise dinner. And my mom used to send me to the roadside to do those businesses. And so I think right from that early age, I already started developing the entrepreneurship spirit within me. So after that, when I finished Form 4, I was able to get employment as an enumerator. You know, these census people who go door to door counting people. And when I finished that job, I bought a popcorn machine and also started selling popcorn at our local center. So during the day, I was a teacher at a local primary school. And this is actually the primary school that I studied at. Excuse me, just a minute. I need to mute this. Yeah, so during the day, I was a teacher. And then in the evening or at night, I was also selling popcorn, also doing other businesses. And so I think through that entrepreneurship spirit and also being now in the area of learning, these two started coming together. I started identifying problems that teachers are facing at school. I also started identifying problems that students are also facing. So the challenges that I was facing as a teacher, getting materials to support my students in school. We were struggling to get materials and content for the students, and also the students during their own free time where they need to do revision also was started to also had the problem to access the revision material. So all these started coming together when I was at Egerton University. And at Egerton University, in my third year, I started an EdTech website. It wasn't a company at that time.
Mm-hmm.
It was called dorusuonline.co.ke. It is since defunct. I did not continue keeping up with the domain payments, which I regret. But if you go to the Wayback Machine on the internet, there is a very good app called Wayback Machine. You can see it back in 2012, Dorusu Online. But as I said earlier, it's now defunct. And then around after I finished campus, I still had this idea, and I'd also still worked in the education space. And so even if I'd let the Russo Online die, I say that the idea inside me did not die. So that's when I started EasyElimu in 2016. And when I started EasyElimu in 2016, it was just a domain name, easyelimu.com. So at that time, what I was doing is I was getting content from my teacher friends and then uploading on EasyElimu. As I was doing that, you know, for us young people or young entrepreneurs, you want to see instant, immediate results. So when you're doing something and you don't see any results, you're going to analytics, you have uploaded a lot of resources, no one is using it, 0 views. It was so demotivating, so I stopped. And then after a few months, I come again, check the analytics and say, wow, so this work that I done months ago right now has, people have been logging in, because maybe after a 6 months period, the search engines have now continued crawling the site and are now starting to rank it higher and higher. So at that time, when I see, oh, it's good progress, I get back to it, I upload more resources. And then at that time, you still see no growth, then give up again, and then rinse and repeat for around 2 years till 2018. And I think now in 2018 is when now I started being a little serious with EasyElimu, but also at that time I was working with Salesforce. So on the side, I started getting people to help me with data entry, and on this side, I was trying to build the application, doing the coding. This side, people are helping with the data entry. So 2018 is when also I officially registered it as a business. Before I was just operating it as a domain name, but I now officially registered it as a business in 2018. So it wasn't without its challenges.
Definitely. Sounds like it.
Yes, I know we'll still talk about that later, but let me just give this example. So in 2019, I decided to get an office at Westlands. At Westlands, I got my first employee who was also helping, doing mostly the data entry. So the young man came, he was living in Kawangware. I actually went to all Kawangware cyber cafes and told them, if you guys have someone who graduated from your school, please you can connect me with them so that they may be able to help me with EasyElimu. So the young lad came for 1 week. Then I saw probably he's also struggling with the fare. So I said, let me give him at least some money so that he may not struggle with the fare. When he went home, he blocked me everywhere and he never came back. I've never heard from him. Then later, I now got my first serious employee, and who I'm also glad to say we are still together, Magenda. And his stipend was only 15,000 Kenya shillings per month. But even that, EasyElimu still didn't have a lot of traction. I was still sometimes getting Mshwari just to be able to raise his salary. So till that point, we continued that way until 2020. That's when we saw real good growth. In 2020, our site started registering more than 10,000, 20,000 visitors every day. And because of the hard work and we had put in 2020. So we saw very big and exponential growth at that time. And so as many inexperienced entrepreneurs do, one peak month, we registered very good sales. And so we rushed to hire more people immediately, but not factoring in the fact that that was probably a peak. Yes, it was a peak month and we made a lot of money at that time.
Yeah.
But now when the peak period ended, we ran into real headwinds again, because you still need to raise rent, you still need to pay salaries. Sometimes end month is here, you don't know how you're going to raise salaries for your staff. But all that time still, we had not raised any money. We actually haven't raised any money till now, except the Mastercard Foundation grant that we received last year.
All right.
So the origins of EasyElimu until this point now.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Even I did to even half of this story, and I feel bad I did to half of this story. It's amazing. Thank you very much for a very detailed and a very lively story into your background and as well the background of EasyElimu. I think when you started talking, you mentioned that at the onset of EasyElimu, you were trying to plug a gap that you happened to come across. The fact that you as a teacher were not able to get particular resources. That you needed to ideally, to impact knowledge of these particular students. And for your students, it was the same case as well. They couldn't ideally get a platform to ideally access this kind of resources to ideally, do their revision, to ideally prepare them for their tests and, for the national examinations. But that was at the onset of your particular journey into EasyElimu. So now, I think how many years later? 8 years later of entrepreneurship of running this particular organization, if someone was to stop you by the street and ask you what EasyElimu is all about, how would you now define your particular organization?
So EasyElimu, even as I said before, our focus is providing quality to students. The challenges being faced by students is that, number one, there is a lack of accessibility. But here I would be lying if I said that EasyElimu will solve accessibility to students in Northeastern Province or accessibility to students in Kibra, because these students, they can't even meet their basic needs. They can't even have supper, so they will not buy subscriptions on EasyElimu. But the gap that we want to fill, or the accessibility challenge that we want to fill, is for students who probably they are able to afford, though the amount is still not steep, but they are able at least to raise an amount to be able to access our content. So the accessibility that we are bringing here is a quality, because there is still a huge gap between what happens in national schools and what happens in, for example, a day school. I was blessed to go to a national school, and I also have taught in a local high school, and the gap, the difference is very, very big, because you see, in a national school, students have access to revision materials. Every week we could do a full mathematics exam. So this person down here in the local school does not have the same access to the same material. So this is one problem that EasyElimu is looking to solve. And then number two, in the point of accessibility, there is access, but still there is very mediocre. I'm so sorry for any educators in this platform, but there are students, there are teachers who won't be bothered whether you do well or not. So the second problem that we want to solve here is to provide much better quality for the learners. So those are the two problems that EasyElimu, or the gaps that EasyElimu is looking to fill. I know I've also at heart, because myself have grown in a similar situation where I've been poor. I would also want to access this. This is something we are still looking into. We don't want to lock out that student in Kibra, that student in Tana River County, who even getting the basic, very, very basic needs, they can't. So we have been looking for ways to fill these gaps, but for now, our focus will be, I would say, middle class, to give better access to education materials.
All right, cool. Thank you very much, Rowlings, for that. As you can see as well, we are getting a couple of questions right in the chat box. Thank you very much to yourself, Faith, and Mark as well for the questions as well. We will ideally be giving a platform to Rowlings to answer all these questions at the end of this particular segment. So if any other question comes along, do feel free just to drop it in the chat box. We will ideally give Rowlings the opportunity to address them in the next 10 minutes once we're done with this particular section. But so Rowlings, allow us to continue with the questions. So sorry. Again, amazing. The engagement is coming along. I'm loving it thus far. So as an organization, as EasyElimu, we've ideally been leveraging technology to enhance access to these particular education resources to the people that ideally use your particular platform. So how do you collaborate with local educators and institutions to ensure that the relevance of the kind of material that ideally that you're putting up on your particular platform, and then effectiveness of the kind of content that ideally these particular teachers and these particular learners are ideally accessing from your particular platform? How do you ensure that the level and the effectiveness is ideally at the top notch, at the highest level?
So thank you, Metu. So all the content that we are currently putting on our website is actually generated by qualified teachers. One of the qualifications for you to be able to create, for those who are looking, probably for those who are browsing EasyElimu right now to see what you are doing, go to app.easyelimu.com, not www. So if you go to app.easyelimu.com, you will see the kind of work we are doing. So the main qualifications for you to be able to produce content for us is that you have to be a TSC approved teacher. And then we also allow the teachers who are, we have one in-house teacher. We also allow the teachers who are working for us to attend the seminars to keep up with the current trends in the CBC, because you notice also CBC has been changing a lot. The curriculum that was there last year, they merged some subjects this year, and that's also another challenge that we are facing, because we might create a lot of content for our learners, but 1 year down the line, the government says all of this now is useless. You need now to go again and generate this content fresh. So we make sure that also we have quality assurance. We have a team that checks all our exams, all our papers so that they can offer quality assurance to make sure that our content is top notch. Apart from that, we also provide a way for learners to give us feedback. So if we see that learners have given feedback that a particular lesson was not good, this exam has wrong answers, we also go in very fast and correct. So we make sure that we also attend seminars. There was one seminar organized by KICD and Zeraki just last month. And when we went to that KICD conference, we were able to know what are the current trends and what do they look for so that they can approve content. So you realize that also the education sector is heavily regulated, and we have to make sure that our content is compliant with the Ministry of Education and the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development.
All right, cool. Thank you very much for that. So you make sure that you're working with the right type of partners, the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, as you mentioned, teachers as well that ideally have that kind of qualification to make sure that the kind of content actually going onto your platform is ideally in line with what is needed on a national level. All right, thank you. It's something that Delhi did mention at the onset of your particular introduction is that you were a Mastercard Foundation EdTech Fellow for a program that we did run here at iHub. As part of this particular experience, you mentioned that it was your first particular fundraising type of round for your particular organization. But in a nutshell, how would you describe the experience of being within such type of a fellowship? And what type of lessons were you able to pick up from being a member of the first cohort of the Mastercard EdTech Fellowship fellowship that we run at iHub?
Right. So if you look at www.EasyElimu and app.EasyElimu and compare the two, the difference is night and day. And all that overhaul that we did on EasyElimu happened when we joined the Mastercard Foundation. So in the Mastercard Foundation Fellowship last year, we got a lot of support in product development. Apart from the 100,000 grant, actually that was the first ever cash injection that we have ever gotten from outside. So apart from that, we got a lot of support in product development, learning science experts. We had many seminars at the iHub offices with learning science experts. You guys even brought people from Carnegie Mellon University to come and tell us and teach us about the learning science. And then we also learned a lot about talent acquisition, distribution, and but overall, I think one of the biggest benefits that EasyElimu has gotten from the Mastercard Foundation Fellowship is being plugged into the ecosystem that previously we didn't even know existed. There are big players in the market like Msingi Park. I've seen Michael Ashira. I don't know if he's still around.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Msingi Park, a big edtech company that I didn't know existed until we joined the fellowship. So being plugged into the ecosystem, things like the EdTech Festival that we also attended for the first time last year. We also didn't know such events are occurring here in Kenya, yet we have been in that space for all that time. So I think being in the Mastercard Foundation was a big eye-opener for us, and we made huge strides since we joined it last year. And the support has not ended. It's still going on. Actually, today evening, the post-acceleration support, they have brought together a team of stakeholders from the NGOs to be able to talk, so that they can see how the EdTech startups can work together with the NGOs. So that was a very big help that we got from the Mastercard Foundation.
All right, thank you very much. I could use more words to describe the benefits that you get from being part of this particular cohort, but I think Rowlings was ideally given a very nice snapshot of some of the benefits of ideally participating in some of the accelerator and incubator programs that we do happen to run at iHub and CC Hub. So as a final question from myself, before we then get into the Q&A questions that we have thus far from the chat. So you're an entrepreneur within the tech space. You've ideally walked this journey from when it was 844 system to the new CBC system. How do you foresee the future of digital education? Not only just in Kenya, but as well in Africa as a whole. And what role do you see EasyElimu playing in this revolution that ideally we are going through within the edtech space?
So as I mentioned earlier, there's a very the focus has not been on edtechs for a while. Fintech has been getting a lot of support, but edtech has been overlooked for a while. And I'm happy because of companies like the Mastercard Foundation, who have also now started investing heavily in the edtech space. We are seeing companies like Zeraki raising $1.8 million in funding. So I think the future of edtech is bright. For EasyElimu, we're already in talks with partners to be able to have EasyElimu installed in 1 million devices by next year. So tablets that are being manufactured, and people probably don't know, but there is a big assembly company at Kansas City for that assembles tablets. And so we have one of our partners, I won't mention yet because the deal is not yet signed, but one of our partners will be producing a lot of tablets here in Kansas City, and EasyElimu will come pre-installed in those tablets. And the targets they're giving us is that they were planning to do more than 1 million devices by the end of next year. And so also I see EasyElimu going also all across Africa. We did a similar test in South Africa, and with very good results. So we know that there's also a massive market in South Africa for edtech. And the only challenge with such products is that the curriculum varies from country to country, but if you still get it right, then still it can still be work well. The problem also with South Africa is that their fintech space is not as advanced as Kenya, surprising to say. It's very hard to get integrations for payments in that seamless in South Africa compared to Kenya. So I foresee a place where the edtech will explode, so that we see companies like companies in Africa going to reach the same valuations like Byju's in India. Byju's does more than $500 million in revenue every year. So even if we could do 1% of that right here in Kenya, $4 million per year, that will be a big success. So personally, I think we're just scratching the surface in the edtech space. There is still a lot of potential, and I think we will be there to see that happen. EasyElimu will be a big player in that one.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you very much, Rowlings, for this. Taking first of all the time to be here today, and I'm having this lovely conversation with myself. So I can see we do have a couple of questions on the chat box. So thank you very much to each and every one of you that's already sent in your questions. If you have any other questions as well, do feel free to drop them in the chat box, as we then now have Rowlings answer some of these questions. So I'll go back to the first question that was asked by Faith. I do believe it's a similar question as to the one that Mark asked, which is more or less about your business model. So how, if you don't mind us highlighting a little bit about your particular business model for your organization.
So we have a B2C model, which probably will change as we start going for marketing in schools across Kenya. So if we start going to schools, that will now look like a B2B2C model. But currently, we are exclusively B2C. We reach we reach our customers straight, and the majority of them are coming through referrals and also through social media and search engine optimization. So when they come, then they see what they need, and they buy a subscription. We have 3 packages currently, which are very affordable, from 500 per month to 3,999 per year. So also, apart from that, there are those who don't want to pay 500 to subscribe. They just want to download these, maybe a topic notes or an exam. So they just pay their 20 shillings, 30 shillings, check out, and so that's our business model. We do B2C, both subscriptions and also one-off sales.
All right, thank you very much for that. So let me move on to the next question. All right, so this one comes in from EasyElimu Tech, and they ask you, do you have live sessions on your platform? And if not, why?
Yeah, live sessions are coming. We have been discussing how to integrate that, and I think by the end of this year, and also when we start onboarding teachers, we tried that before. Was it in 2020 at the height of the pandemic? That there were the biggest problem was the catch-22 situation, or the chicken and egg situation. So you can't have students if you don't have a teacher. And you can't have teachers if you don't have students. So I think with enough sensitization, or if we, first of all, onboard teachers, we might be able to now market it more aggressively to our student base that we already have. But we are working on that, and it's coming.
All right, thank you very much for that. The next question comes in from Stephen Monduka from STEAM Interactive Global, and he asked, how do you help KICD in bridging the gap on emerging technologies for learning? I don't know if it is something that you're able to do, but if you do, how ideally do you help KICD bridge the gap on emerging technologies for learning?
KICD actually is the one that from the sessions we have had, they are actively looking for such, because they are also in the business of making quality resources be accessible by students. So like the previous session that we had at KICD, the directors were saying some things like the government also is looking for quality videos, and they can buy they can even buy in millions. So it's KICD who are actually reaching out to startups to be able to bridge the gap in technology.
Oh, that's amazing. So ideally that points out to the fact that there is more that can actually be achieved within the space. So even if you're yourself there, entrepreneur within the edtech space, yeah, more opportunities for yourself to actually get your content and your platform out there for more people to actually consume the kind of work that you're doing. All right, we move on to the next question. This came in as well from EasyElimu Tech. Allow me just to take this one. The question reads, how can one join the Mastercard Foundation program? So yeah, so good news and bad news. So ideally, this comes to the close of the second cohort, second application of the Mastercard Foundation Fellowship Program. We ideally ran the applications from early December last year till mid of February. And we've actually just come to the end of the selection process for the organizations that are ideally going to be part of the second cohort. So unfortunately, it may not be possible for you to join this particular year's cohort, but the good news is we're ideally going to be running it for another year. So in the year 2025. So towards the end of this particular year, once again, do have a lookout for our particular socials. You can ideally as well subscribe to a newsletter. You can get all this information on our Instagram channel, also Instagram page, ideally iHub Nairobi, and ideally you'll be able to see all this information. But unfortunately for now, you might not be in a position to join it, but we will be running it for another year in the year 2025. So towards the end of this particular year, do have a look out for our social media channels. You'll ideally be in a position to find out how you can as well join this particular program for the final cohort. Yes, so go ahead.
They should make sure that you're in the iHub newsletters, because that's also how I learned about the previous cohort, the cohort that I was in. So make sure you're in iHub newsletters and you open them and read through them, because they send such opportunities through such media.
Amazing. Thank you very much. You're literally making me feel so positive about my work today. So allowing us to move on to the next question. So this one actually, it's more of my request, ideally coming in from EasyElimu Tech as well. I'm ideally a relatively new player in the space and would like to ideally reach out to you this either for mentorship or for partnership. So if it's something you'd be interested too, Rowlings will ideally drop his LinkedIn profile in the chat as well. So you can ideally reach out to him, and then he'd ideally be in a position to take up more conversation in regards to mentorships and partnerships, should you be willing to do so. Once again, we have Mac. He ideally is asking you whether you've thought through revenue for through ads or ideally from ads for your particular platform. I don't know if it's something that you've ideally given a thought to.
Yeah, we have well, one of our main sources of revenue from 2020 has been ads, but we are moving away from that, because number one, ads. I will a learner will be on my platform studying, and then they'll see an ad for my competitor, and they'll click on the ad and go to my competitor's platform. Number two, inappropriate ads can be shown to children of very young age. Mm-hmm. So the new EasyElimu app that we built at the Mastercard Foundation since last year will not have any ads. Also looking at the opportunity cost, I don't think it's worth it.
All right, thank you very much for that. There is another question from EasyElimu Tech once again, and we're still getting more people adding the kicker emotion, which is amazing to see. The question reads, being that the current curriculum is more activity-based, how will you integrate this on your particular platform? Ideally, the reference into the CDC curriculum.
Right, so already as the platform is, there is a ton of feedback that you are given by the app. It has integrations of artificial intelligence that will give a very specific feedback. But apart from that, this is also in the plans. It's not yet ready. There will include games inside for the younger students, drag and drop features, activities that are not just reading and answering questions, but in line with the CBC, activities that learners can engage with, that include games, videos, animations. All of them will be integrated into EasyElimu. The biggest challenge is that all this generating content, building the product, creating those animations is very expensive. And so also if there is a partner listening in, you could probably reach out so that you may help us bring this vision to life, because we are planning to make it be like a full school from kindergarten all the way to Form 4. You can literally learn on EasyElimu and pass your exams with flying colors.
Amazing. Thank you very much for that. It seems the questions keep down not close to ending, but allow me just to ask the next one. So this one comes in from Leaky. He's ideally just trying to ask whether you've tried offering any other type of courses apart from probably the primary and high school education. So courses in probably tertiary kind of levels, those kind of things. It's something that you have thought for your particular organization, for your particular platform.
Yeah, so the challenge with offering tertiary content is that it's different in every curriculum. So that will involve a lot of investment, because nurses are learning something different. Computer science students, you might even at third year, they are specializing. So unless the approach we will have here is that we will build a platform where lecturers can be able to post their content instead of us now generating this content using our own means, because knowledge is wide. There'll be billions of, not billions maybe, but we love to develop curriculum for too many things to be able to keep up. So probably we could go to more common courses like CPA, but still that's not in the near. It's not in the near plans. We
All
just
right.
focus in the K-12 for now. Yes.
So thank you very much for that. So yeah, so I think, is there any final question? The more are probably just comments in and around the conversation that we were having. But yeah, so thank you very much, Rowling. So allow me just to probably ask a final question from my end as well. So given the fact that you've been more or less into this entrepreneurship journey for the last 80 years or so, what's a key learning that you've picked up that you probably want, to pass along to any up and coming entrepreneur, or someone that's probably, trying to make it within the edtech space? What's one piece of advice that you've ideally been able to pick up from your time within this entrepreneurship journey that you'd like to share with, the people on the call?
So resilience. I think this is why more than 95% of the startups fail, because when you start out, I mentioned I was also a victim of this. When you start out, you might not see the results you are expecting. So it pays to always show up, no matter how hard or tough the going is. It pays to being consistent, doing that boring work, because it's actually that boring and mundane, those boring and mundane tasks that at the end of the day will bring results. So in the edtech space too, there is a lot of red tape, there is a lot of regulations, but even that, I'll just don't wait until your product is perfect. Don't wait until I wish we could have had enough time for me to show you the previous versions of EasyElimu and how they look like. You will be encouraged to start wherever you are. Don't wait for that perfect app for you now to start launching or to get your product out there. Even the current app.easyelimu.com is still not perfect, and we have a lot of gaps, but we already launched still, and we're already making sales through it. So I would encourage every entrepreneur, be resilient, be consistent, and also don't be afraid to start.
Amazing. Thank you very much for that. Resilience, consistency, and do not be afraid to start. Those are the words that we have been given by Rowlings Odhiambo today. So I believe at the beginning of this session, Faith mentioned that she wanted to learn about your journey. I believe that we've been able to tick off. Mark mentioned he wanted to talk about more bits about your fundraising journey that we might not have had the chance to probably get into a bit deeper into that, but I do know that he has shared his contact information via LinkedIn. So should you be in a position to connect, I do believe the conversation can continue even past this particular session. And as well, to each and every one of you for making the time. Thank you very much to you, Rowlings, for coming on board to share your story. I very much appreciate you. So as we always wrap up these kind of sessions, I just like to ask for each and every one of you. Sorry, my apologies. Just trying to see whether there's a final message in the chat box. Before we wrap up the session, I'd just like to ask each and every one of you, if you could just allow me just a quick minute of your time, if you could just turn on your cameras. It's always great just to make sure that we're able just to mark this particular moment, just to see the beautiful faces that we had during the session. At least we've been able to see Mark's face the whole time. Rowlings as well. So if you could just turn on your camera just for a quick minute, so you can really just take a quick photo. Then we'll ideally call it a wrap. And thank you all for just being here. We have James already turning on, amazing. Michael as well, amazing. We have Moses as well. Beautiful faces, beautiful faces, beautiful faces. Allow me just to put it out in the right format. All right, cool. So to each and every one of you all, if you can just strike a pose, do something with your lovely hands. Amazing. We have the hands here. Steve as well, Johnny putting on the camera. All right, so I'm gonna give you like, I don't know, like 3, 2, 1, then strike the pose. So in 3, 2, 1, strike a pose. Amazing, 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 amazing. That should do it. That should do it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for making the time to be here today. This has been once again iHub's Panel Speaker Series. We do have this kind of sessions each and every so often. So do join our particular newsletter, as Rowlings with the daily alluded to as well earlier on, to daily make sure that you're always kept informed of any kind of events and series that we're going to be having as iHub. To you, Rowlings, once again, thank you very much for making the time, and to each and every one of you for being here to ideally listening to this particular journey, this particular story. Have yourself a lovely rest of the day, each and every one of you. So for anyone that would like to connect with you, Rowlings, how would they ideally get in touch with you?
I shared my LinkedIn profile in the chat.
All right. Thank you very much.
You can reach me on LinkedIn.
Sawa. Thank you very much for the Rowlings. This has been the Funnest Speaker series. Have yourself a lovely rest of the day. And yeah, a lovely Labor Day tomorrow as well as you rest up for the new month. All right. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Bye.